Salutations, my friends. It's Wire Guitar back again with another video. Crazy 2 videos in 2 days. It's almost like I'm becoming a YouTuber. Today, I wanted to cover a bit of a replay analysis, not of my own gameplay, but of this fine young gentleman or gentle lady or gentle person, Bird, who I met, if you will, not met in real life, but of course, interacted with through the r/learn Dota 2 community. I made a post about my video that I posted promoting the video that I posted yesterday to my YouTube, and he responded. We had a bit of a back and forth, a bit of a healthy, kind back and forth, of course. Bird seems like a very fine young chap, or chapess, or chap. But it eventually ended with him, or with them, I should specify, saying that they felt like they got zoned from the lane quite often when they play Darkseer, and I expressed the sentiment that Darkseer should not be getting zoned from lane EXP. If he is getting zoned from EXP, it is because likely you're in a very, very hard lane that you probably just shouldn't be in, or you are doing something wrong. So that's what we are trying to figure out today. Is Bird doing something wrong in his Darkseer gameplay? Quick disclaimer, I haven't watched this replay before. So Bird's approaching this lane. I'm just going to pause real quick, very briefly, and talk about his starting items and what I assume his lane is going to be. It looks like, given the fact that I see Warlock TPing top, that this is a Darkseer Pugna lane. Pugna's starting with a lot of resources already being expended. You know, he's half HP. You can't see it on his thing, but like look down here. He's half HP. Didn't really bring a lot of regen. He's not in the lane. And then you started getting the bounty rune from your team. I'm just going to assume, again, I haven't seen this replay before, but I'm going to assume that you're against Morphling. And then some other hero. I don't know. They have a lot of heroes that could potentially go to your lane. Theoretically, I guess, since we see the Pudge and the Pudge started Quelling Blade, I'm going to assume he's either mid or off lane. Theoretically, it could be any one of these heroes. They don't really have a good lineup. It feels like they have a bunch of squishy backliners that are just waiting to get chronoed. But either way, you are probably against, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be like Ancient Apparition or Lich. That's just going to be my initial guess here. Which, to me, is a pretty good sight to behold, right? You have two heroes that can't really deal with your Ion Shelled creep all that well. Of course, they can act as bullies in lane, but if you just make sure you double shell the first wave and push it into their tower, you should have absolutely no problem going behind their tower, because neither of these heroes can really dive on you effectively. Morphling plus any hero. Morphling is a notoriously one of the worst level 1 heroes in the game. Can't really do much to you. He's going to start morph and morph all of his agi. Yeah, and sure enough, he did. You should have a pretty easy time in the way that I understand this lane. Just double shelling the first creep wave and then walking behind their tower, grabbing their second creep wave, going into this this easy camp with that creep wave to block it at 1 minute timer, and then pulling this all the way back here and then creating a lane equilibrium right here for you to get level 3. You don't even really need to communicate any of this to your Pugna, which is the best part about Darkseer. You know, you can just play him like a solo queue hero. Don't really have to talk. Just plug in the music. You know, I know what you guys are doing. You're sitting back here just listening to your music and shit like that, your rap music. So let's approach the lane. Here you are. You could argue that I should sit here and talking about starting items. I don't want to talk about starting items, except for one thing that I do want to say. I disagree with your decision to get a salve and 6 tangos. That seems like a lot of regen. The rest of your item build, I won't criticize at all. You know, you saturated your gold quite well with items that do stuff in the lane. You know, I'll never complain about a GG branch. Clarity, Mango, fine. Quelling Blade, you know, I mean, you're not going Null Talisman. It's very obvious that you're not, and that's something that I don't personally like, especially against this lane. You know, like if you identify that you're against a Lich, which you're not, Lich is TPing top. What I would do in this lane is I would try to get some stat boosting items early, and then rush. I would try to rush his stick and then get some stat boosting items early to try to fight. Even if you are with a Pugna, you can still do something to this lane. Darkseer interacts with this lane quite well, especially as he starts to gain levels and gets levels in wall. So an item like Null Talisman should help you fight at all stages of this early game lane against these two heroes, be them, you know, Morphling and Lich, Morphling, and AA. Well, it's not going to be Lich anymore. Either Morphling and AA or Morphling and Lina. Either way, Null Talisman will help you against this lane, and then get an infused range drop at level. No doubt in my mind. Our friend Bird, our anime protagonist Bird here gets a rain drop at 3 minutes. There's just no doubt in my mind. No matter what hero comes down here, he knows to get a rain drop. I'm sure of it. So. You're against the AA. This is fine. I mean, it does pay off sometimes to buy 6 tangos at the start of the game. So, you know, AA likes to harass you. One thing I will complain about a little bit is, so the Morphling blocked so hard that the lane actually, the equilibrium met at his tower, and you weren't in position because you went for the rune to double shell. You weren't in position to get 2 shells. Actually, I think you were. I could go back, but I think you walked into the lane right here, and I think you had an opportunity. You always do. As long as you get one of these 2 runes and immediately start running, you always have enough time to shell here and then shell here when the creeps meet. You didn't do that, but the Morphling blocked his creep so hard that the equilibrium met right here under his tower, and so now it's pushing towards you. This isn't necessarily bad, but this does require you make a slight adjustment to your lane, and it does require you to play Darkseer less solo QE and actually communicate to your support. You do not want this camp spawning in a minute, which it looks like this is this a block? I would need to like... This does not block the camp, so this is just straight up a bad sentry. You want to make sure this camp doesn't have an opportunity to spawn at 1 minute, especially with the way the lane is going currently, right? Their lane is pushing into you, which means that if AA is a half-decent support, he will identify that, go back here, and try to remedy this lane situation by doing either a half pull or a pull all the way through to the hard camp. And, you know, I don't know if he's going to do that. Again, haven't seen this replay. If he doesn't do that, then you get lucky. But if he does do that, then, you know, he's a good enough player to punish you for the way the lane is currently going, which means that you, at a higher bracket of skill where AA is inclined to do this, you need to communicate to your Pugna that he needs to respond to that, because, of course, you can't. So you are, you know, too busy caught up in the creeps. So this is one disadvantage of having the first lane push into you as hard as it is currently, right? You have a wave coming and then a half a wave already here. Also, Morphling is in a pretty good position to be able to deny you. Now, he's playing very passively. He doesn't need to be, but especially since you and Pugner are both still level 1. But if Morphling was better, he would have contested those last 2 hits. And yeah, he is going for these denies. So this is all kind of some unfortunate, annoying shit that you have to deal with since you didn't double wave on the first wave, is that these first few creep waves are going to be contestable by the Morphling, simply because, you know, they're not under his tower, they're not under your tower, you know, they're not in an awkward state where he isn't like basically he's playing super passively, but if he just walked up and started trying to contest or denies, this lane would be more annoying. But in any case, it is not. I'll go back to, I don't know why it's being weird there. Go back to your vision here. And this is one disadvantage of constantly shelling yourself early game, is you find yourself not wanting to approach the creep wave, but you have a shell on yourself, so you're kind of wasting mana. You feel like you have to. More often than not, the correct shell targets early game are going to be melee creeps, unless you already have a melee creep shelled. Once you have a melee creep shelled, shelling the melee creep is what creates the condition that allows you to approach the lane, right? When you shell a melee creep, you're creating an area where if the enemy carry stands, they're taking damage, and if they aren't standing on it, then they're probably not hitting creeps. Now, Morphling kind of cheats that because he's a ranged hero, but if you shell a melee creep and then walk up with a shell of your own, you're doing double damage, because you have 2 shells, 2 sources of damage, on the melee creeps, on the enemy melee creeps, so you're pushing it quickly. Whereas if you walk up by yourself with only 1 shell, you're not dealing damage to the enemy creeps fast enough, so the enemy starts to right-click you because they know that their creeps are still alive and they're going to be able to assist them in the trade, and then you just end up losing. What you need to do in lanes like this, especially where it's harass heavy and they're 2 ranged heroes, is you need to focus on shelling melee creeps and making sure that in the lane, basically there's 2 sources of ion shell hitting the enemy melee creeps at all times. So that means what that could mean you do, this is one of the reasons why I like playing Enigma, is you can take a note from Enigma's book, and as the oncoming creep wave is coming before it's met in the lane, like when it's like right about here, you can back up and then shell it, and then wait for the cooldown, the creeps are walking, and then by the time they meet in the creep wave, you can shell them again, and then you don't even have to worry about them right-clicking down the melee creep that you just shelled because it just met in lane. And yeah, this is another thing, is you can communicate with your support to help you push this lane in, because what you really don't want in this lane, you really don't want a static lane equilibrium, because they have 2 ranged heroes. AA is also a notoriously strong Okay, this is bad. I'm going to talk about this. Notoriously good harass space support. Like AA wants a static lane so that he can abuse his higher than average attack range. He can abuse chilling touch. And if he has a lot of mangoes, he can sit there and spam out cold feet and just do a crap ton of damage to you. But that is the least of our worries because we just saw what I'd say is our first big mistake. Let's go over it. In this lane. Besides rushing Soul Ring is not going to help you in this lane. Okay. So I did going under the tower and trying to contest last hits, but when it's the last creep, especially a range creep, which dies and is so frail, all you're doing is setting yourself up to take tower shots. So even if you got that deny, right, you probably would have felt sick. You would have been like, nice, I got this deny. You wouldn't have realized that after the that deny cost you a good 300 HP and has now forced you into a situation where since you're not rushing bottle, you're instead rushing Soul Ring, you're kind of fucked. Like you're forced to use yourself, you're going to use your clarity, you're not going to get up to full mana. You had to use Surge there, which is more mana than you would like to use. And you had to skill Surge first of all, which means that you are pretty much definitely not going to get a kill when you hit level 3. Also, your Pugna's playing the most passive. Like, this is basically just a range creep in disguise. Not even a range creep, because at least a range creep would be attacking. But we're not going to focus on Pugna. We're not going to focus on the fact that you could be telling the Pugna to run in more and try to leverage his HP. This is where the principle that I was talking about earlier of making sure that you're shelling creeps does not apply. When you're under the enemy tower, you don't want to shell your range creeps because they're just gonna your melee creeps because they're just gonna die. If you do shell a melee creep, make sure you're not shelling the one that's in front because if you're shelling the one in front, it's gonna get tower aggro first and thus get focused. Now the enemy went for a pull. You didn't know that. You know that's tough. Why does it keep doing this? You didn't know that. I want to say that's tough. It's kind of obvious. Like there's only one range creep showing up to lane. You could immediately go over there. This is, again, one of those things where controlling this camp is really important. Making sure that you block it with the sentry can be a very good decision. We see that done all the time in pro games. Oftentimes in pro games, people are just starting sentries, supports, and, well, both supports, the 4 position and the 3 position, are just starting sentries and going out and blocking these camps because they're so annoying to deal with in lane. This pull isn't going to be that bad for you. If anything, it's going to help your lane out because this creep camp won't kill any of these melee creeps. And this pull causes the wave to be under the tower. So whereas maybe you'll miss this range creep, maybe what will happen is it will reverse, like rubber band this wave back into your tower. So you should have a nice situation here for the next 2 creep waves. It is unfortunate that Morphling's getting so much free farm though. And again, this could be avoided if you were taking more control of this lane. If you were simply, well, if you, where to begin? First of all, it's 3 minutes. I do want to see an infused raindrop in your inventory. But then, yeah, next, if we were recognizing that their lane is going to push into us anyways, we either need to double shell, right? We either need to put 2 shells on us and walk up to those many creeps, or we just need to let it push into us and just accept the fact that Morphling going to get a free farm to then hold the lane back here. We can't. It's like we're doing everything wrong to try to control the lane equilibrium. We're shelling when we shouldn't be shelling, and then we're not shelling when we need to be shelling. We want to recognize where the lane is, and if it's right outside of the enemy tower, we want to recognize where it needs to be, which is anywhere but here. If it's outside of the enemy tower, we want it to go either into their tower so that our creeps die quicker than theirs, and then the lane's rubber bands back into us so we can control it right here, or we want the lane to push into us so we can control it right here. We never, under any circumstance, do we ever want it right here. And if it ever is right here, because the enemy is playing well, they're eventually it is going to get right here. And when the lane gets to right here, we want to say to ourselves, this is wrong. We need to correct this somehow. And it seems like you're not doing that. It seems like when the lane is right here, you want it to stay there. And that was why you shelled back here, right? You were like, oh man, there's a lot of creeps here. I want to shell and try to help the creep wave stay right here. So I'm going to shell a creep. Your Morphling is helping you out by right-clicking that creep down. Instead of just simply denying his own creeps. Because if Morphling is smart and he denies his own creeps there, you miss out on like 3 CS for free. Because there's no way you're walking up to that creep wave, right? Like there's 5 melee creeps there. Yeah, it's like we have to be able to instinctively look at a lane that is right outside the enemy's tower and say something's wrong here. but we're not doing that, which is what I would say our biggest issue is in this lane. It's one of the reasons why, Morphling is probably a full level up now at this point. No, he's 3/4 of a level. You're 2 and 3/4, and he's 3 and nearly a half. There's something wrong here, right? He should not be this favored to win this lane. And one of the big reasons that he is because, again, we are just not controlling the lane. We're not pushing the lane in and pressuring his farm. We're not taking creep waves and denying him waves of farm by pulling them back to this area. We're not going bottle, right? So we're super strapped for resources. We've never had enough mana to be able to double shell a creep wave, right? We don't have any passive mana regen, right? One of the big benefits of Null Talisman is it at least does give you 0.6 mana regen. Your build, once you've used your consumables, does not give you any passive regen. And you might say, well, my Pugna has a base. Well, if your Pugna has a base and you have a Null Talisman, think of the mana that you're getting. You're effectively getting a base's worth of regen. You're getting 1.6, and base gives you like 1.4 or some shit like that. My point is, or 1.5. My point is, we don't have any resources. We barely have any money, right? We have finally gotten our Soul Ring, but Soul Ring isn't going to help at all in this lane because we're not going to have any HP. Right, and Soul Ring doesn't give you any health regen anymore. One of the reasons why I kind of strapped it from my build, right? And it makes us tankier, but it doesn't make us tankier in a stage of the game that we care about, right? Right now, I don't care about being tanky. I just care about having enough resources to where if they go on me, I don't die, right? Because I'm always at full HP. Soul Ring is not going to keep me at full HP. And then I also care about having enough mana to do everything. And Soul Ring does give you mana, but at the cost of your HP. Soul Ring is kind of a weird item. Like, it gives you the mana that you need as a resource to be able to play the lane, but it takes away your HP, which is the other resource you need to play your lane effectively. If you start using Soul Ring in this lane, you're just going to die. It's not even going to require Morphling. Like, AA will literally just kill you solo if you start using Soul Ring in this lane, which is why I would not be going Soul Ring in this lane. There are some lanes, and I think I mentioned Anti-Mage is one of them, where Soul Ring can be an okay item to go because of the increased mana that you will get compared to a bottle from the item. But it's not worth it in this lane, let me tell you that. So, again, the lane is going to push into you now because you double wave them under their tower. And yeah, if we're playing this lane smart, we're not pushing it out. So I think I just heard Pugna blast the tower. Yeah, he did blast the tower, so he killed 2 of your melee creeps. This is just so sad. Like, and now he wants to fight the Ancient Apparition. I don't know, but this doesn't make any sense. You don't have Vacuum. You can't kill this guy. If you did have hey, side note, if you did have Vacuum, this is a kill. I just want to throw that out there. Just want to set that out to sale. If you didn't skill Surge because of this misplay right here, right? If you had held your skill point, and if you were winning the lane. If you were winning the lane, like if you were actually winning this lane, you would be level 4, and you would have a point in Vacuum. So 2 big mistakes costing you this kill right now. First, you're not winning the lane. If you're winning the lane like you should be as a Darkseer, you would be higher level, right? You would be this Morphling's level. And then secondly, you had to skill Surge because of this misplay under the tower. So you don't have Vacuum, and because you don't have Vacuum, you can't contest the AA, right? You can't kill the AA right here. So just wanted to throw that out there. And because you have Surge and Ion Shell, I wouldn't even walk over here. Like, this is just a waste of your time. You're doing this to farm the easy camp. This is just going to cost you HP and farm, because whereas the easy camp seems like a nice farm vector, it's like, this is farm that I otherwise wouldn't get. It's actually very bad. You're going to aggro oh no, you're going to aggro the hard camp. You 100% have to go back to base now, and this is so sad. What you're going to do, here's what you're going to do. You're going to try to pull. You're going to pull, and then you're going to shell, and then surge back to base, aren't you? No? You're going to try to play the lane? Oh, God. No? Okay, yeah, you are going to surge back to base. Okay, so you did everything wrong here. So you shelled the melee creep that's taking damage from the creeps. So this shell isn't even going to last. You should have shelled this creep. You're in this bad situation to begin with, right? Where you should not be having to walk back to base at 5 minutes. Unless something incredibly dire happened. Nothing dire happened. If you had a bottle here, infused raindrop, you would be totally fine. If your Pugna had any regen for you, if you had just bought a salve, you'd be fine. Instead, you have to run back to base. Now, you are Darkseer. It's not as bad because you have Surge, but either way, you have to run back to base, which is pretty bad. And Morphling's just completely free farming away. Like, this is the big issue. This is the silent killer of this lane. I know when I loaded up the replay, he bought a self anyways. Oh my god. Run back to the lane. What the heck? You have a self now. Okay. I know when I loaded up this replay that your score ended up pretty, like, okay, right? You were like 7-2 or something. But if you were looking at this game from the perspective of how can I improve my own play, and you looked at your score and you said, like, I'm doing great in these games. What's holding me back? My team is holding me back. Like, I'm doing great. Look at my score. this is what's holding you back is your lane fundamentals. Your I don't even want to say mechanics, because a lot of this has been decision making. Your decision making in the lane has been rather abhorrent. And again, I don't say that to demean you. You checked out my guidance, stuff like that. Like you're probably a great person in real life. I'm not saying that you're not. I'm saying that I'm just trying to give you some tough love, harsh truth. Like, you TP back in the lane, you didn't instantly shell yourself for the free mana. Like, there are things that you can work on when it comes to the laning stage, and I'm sure you know that, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have sent me this replay. But I'm saying this to just illustrate the point that these are the things that I would definitely focus on working on. Is a bunch of things that may seem small that definitely do add up. But either way, okay, first of all, okay, this is a small side note. Doesn't matter nearly as much as the other things that we've talked about, but I definitely would have gone for that catapult there. Catapults are worth more gold. It's hard to get catapults, and that's why oftentimes you'll see, like, in pro games, people will just, like, they'll push out a creep wave, one catapult will be remaining, and they'll just run away because the catapult takes a while to kill, and it's often not even worth it. It, like, causes you to be out of position because it takes you so long to kill the catapult that you have to commit your time there, and then people go and gank you. But in that moment right there, I would have gone for that catapult, because that catapult would have been double the range creeps worth of gold. But besides that fact, what I'd be doing here, yeah, I think you're going to do it. I'd be shelling these creeps, pushing them in because they're not under his tower yet, running behind his tower and putting a ward up, and then just farming the easy camp and waiting to see if anybody rotates in. And I would literally just do that on repeat, because you're so behind in this lane now that you can't actually walk up if Morphling is, like, even remotely good, right? You have 2 shells out, but Morphling is level 5, right? If this Morphling had any understanding of how to play the lane, from his position, he would just right click you constantly. He would make it so that anytime you walk up to the lane, you are getting, like, right clicked, and then you just don't want to approach the lane. So because of that, you have to take advantage of the only thing Darkseer in this situation can take advantage of, which is that you have superior wave manipulation, right? Morphling, at this stage in the game anyways, still can't really push in creep waves the same way that you can. So just do that. Push in creep waves. I don't want to reference my old Broodmother guides too much because they're no longer up on YouTube, but this is one of the things that we would take advantage of as a Broodmother against heroes like Legion Commander, Axe, and Timbersaw. It's like, even though those heroes in lane were able to, outmaneuver and, well, I don't want to say outmaneuver. Brood was always able to outmaneuver them, but even though those heroes were able to abuse Broodmother in lane by sheer virtue of their, natural, their passive abilities, like, counterattack, counter helix, and reactive armor, Broodmother always had a way of playing against them because she could push in creep waves and she could outmaneuver them. She could, avoid their skill shots and run away from them. That's what you need to do here as Darkseer, is you need to push in the creep wave, because that's the one thing Morphling can't really deal with. Pugnus being cheeky, and I like how you ping in there. And then you need to go behind the tower. Literally surge yourself behind this tower. Okay, there's 2 supports there. No. Don't do this. Go grab the creep wave. Literally go right here, drop a ward, and grab the creep wave. Don't fuck with this. This A is gonna bully you out. This is tragic. This is tragic. I hate saying this. The creeps, dude. This is the farm. These are pennies on the dollar, right? This is like 8, 10, and 22 gold, respectively, for the smallest kobold, the medium-sized kobolds, and then the Taskmaster. One melee creep is worth more, almost as much as this entire camp is. The creeps, the lane creeps, are where the farm is. The lane creeps are where the levels are. The lane creeps are the reason that you are a full level and a half below this Morphling. And that divide is going to continue to increase as I see you at half HP, half mana, and Morphling is sitting on the creep wave that you should be sitting on. And by the way, where's your raindrop, bro? But anyways, like, this is where the game is. This is where this is where your net worth disadvantage is. Look at this. You are, you're bottom. You're second to last in the net worth charts. I knew this before even opening it up. You are 1,000 gold, 1K gold behind this Morphling, and the 10-minute mark isn't even up. This is 100% a lost lane at this point. And again, I'm not saying this to be a dick. Please don't interpret it that way. I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to make you a better player. This is the reason why you lost the game. This is the reason why you lost the game. Now, your team, existential circumstances, there are probably a cajillion reasons we could continue to watch this replay to see how it doesn't really matter that this net worth disadvantage is happening, because maybe your team is doing well in some other area. It doesn't really look like they are, but, like, maybe you make a comeback somewhere elsewhere. But this is definitely the number one thing I would razor focus in on in my Darkseer play if I were you, is recognizing, like, I'm losing these lanes way harder than I should. I should not even be losing a lane like Ancient Apparition Morphling. I should be manipulating the creeps as we talked about earlier by pushing them in, going behind the tower, grabbing the creep wave, dragging it to the easy camp, blocking the camp, pulling it all the way over here to the tower, then last hitting until the lane comes up. Then I'm going. Fuck it. I'm gonna continue giving this outline. Then, when they have a double wave right outside my tower and they try to push it into my tower, I either start shelling myself and trying to counterbalance the number of creeps, so I shave off their creeps to make sure that the equilibrium stays, or I let them push it into my tower, then my wave catapults back into their wave, and then I just repeat the same process of going behind their tower and grabbing creep waves, all the while dealing damage to the enemy carrier, right? Because he's constantly forced to walk out of position. If a Morphling is right here outside of your tower, and you have Surge, or if you have Ion Shell, or sorry, if you have Surge, or if you have Vacuum and Pugnus in position, you can do a lot of damage to this Morphling. But because this Morphling's been sitting right under his tower since minute fucking 30 seconds, since before minute 1, he's been sitting under his tower for basically the 90% of this lane stage. He's at full HP full mana. He's not even at full HP full mana because your Pugnus harassing him. But like, this Morphling's had the freest game of his entire life. And the reason why is because he's just never been leaving his tower. If you guys didn't know, towers, this is kind of small. It's kind of a big deal. Towers give I think they give a health regeneration bonus still. Can I find a hero that's under a tower? Here. Yeah. They give, well, holy fuck, is it 3? I didn't realize it was 3. I thought it was 1. Yeah, towers give you 3 armor and 1 health regen. And that's just a tier 1 tower that gives you 3 armor and 1 health regen. Like, the bonus that you get for sitting under your tower in lane is way too much. It's honestly one of the things they should consider removing next patch, because it's kind of lame that, like, pulling constantly and just keeping the wave, basically playing the lane like a turtle. It's kind of lame that that's like such an effective strategy, but that's neither here nor there. What's important is that this Morphling has been able to do that. He's been able to play the lane like that, and so he's been able to get Giga farmed at the expense of nothing, basically. It hasn't cost his team anything for him to play the way he has played, and that's been really, really dampening your ability to perform in this lane. So that's the main thing, again, that I would try to focus on from this replay. We're going to kind of skip ahead here because I think I've seen enough. You're going to ward, I mean, that's not a bad ward spot location per se, but it doesn't make sense. You keep burying these salves. How many salves have we bought at this point? We've bought, I think, 4 salves throughout the course of this game. So 4 salves or 440 gold. You've almost bought a bottle's worth of regen just in salves alone. I just want to point that out. It just occurred to me that my desktop audio wasn't on, so you guys couldn't hear the game sounds. I'm sorry about that, but now you can, or hopefully should be able to. Yeah, you should be able to hear them. Okay. You guys get a cute kill on Ancient Apparition at the expense of your Pugna. You're forced to run back to base again, yet again, because you bought the Soul Ring, you don't have Battle, you've run back to base twice. And you might look at this and be like, ah, oh, sweet, you know, I got a kill, and we made it out of the lane phase as Darkseer, but, like, dude, you're level 4. You're almost level... You're level 5 at 10 minutes. You are the same level as most supports. You have the 4th lowest net worth in the game. You've lost this lane. If you feel confident about your position in the game, that is because, unfortunately, you're used to losing lanes so hard as Darkseer that you don't know what it's like to win the lane. So you've grown comfortable in losing the lane this hard. But this should feel awkward when you reach your base at this period. When you hit your base at this period in the game because you ran back for like the 3rd time because you didn't bring resources to the lane, and you're sitting in the fountain and you're wondering what item to buy, and you're thinking to yourself, huh, it's almost 10 minutes again, and I'm barely level 5. Why am I so underfarmed? This should feel awkward. You should feel like you don't belong, like you're doing something wrong. And I'm not saying that to bully you. I'm saying that because I want to spark this change of heart. I'm being a poet right now. I don't even know it. In your mind, to where you start to really consider, you start to really think, man, I find myself at this low of a level, at this low farm, at this low level / low net worth period in the game quite often as Darkseer. What is happening in my game? What is going wrong? Why is it the case that I am this low net worth? Because this is what happened with my Darkseer play. Was I did find myself losing a lot of lanes, and I had to really reflect. I would watch my own replays, and then I watch pro replays. I would especially watch Keizu, and I would think to myself, huh, these pros are owning their lanes. They aren't, level 6 at 10 minutes or level 5 at 10 minutes. They're like level 7 or 8. And they usually have 1,000 to 2,000 net worth more than I have. Like, what am I doing wrong? You know, sometimes they're going like, I don't want to say godlike, but they're killing the enemy carry like 4 or 5 times. Like, what is it that they're doing that is so fundamentally different than what I am doing in lane? And I'm giving you the cheat code. I'm telling you what it is. It's all about wave manipulation. And to some extent starting, or rather not starting items, but like item decisions, because definitely Soul Ring is holding you back here. It's all about knowing when to push, when to pull the lane back, either through literally pulling creep camps or just not shelling creeps. This is kind of awkward that the enemy is like doing this whole, you know, send 4 heroes bottom thing, but it's not that awkward because, yeah, you can do what you're doing, which is just shelling creeps and then going and finding farm in the jungle. And again, I think, alright, I think I'm going to call it here. We could watch for a little bit longer, but I think we've covered the thing that would improve your Darkseer gameplay the most. I kind of want to see you hit like a Thug Nasty vacuum wall combo, because I know you ended this game with like 7 kills, which tells me that eventually in this game you do something very correct. And I kind of want to compliment you for that, because I don't want this video to be seeming like it's just a bunch of insults. But I don't know if it's going to come quickly, because this is a 52-minute long game. For the record, I think what you're doing right now is mostly correct, but the problem is you're doing it from the standpoint of somebody who has lost their lane, so you have to do it awkwardly. What I mean by this is you're playing your lane, you're not rotating around the map a whole lot, although actually maybe that's what you need to be doing, because the enemy is focusing so hard on this bottom tower that what you probably should be doing, since since your mid laner, or sorry, since your carry just died, farming here. Who did he die to again? Was it Pudge? Since he just died here, what I think you should do is you should just take the farm that he would take, which, well, he would actually be taking top farm. So Arc Warden went to go take the farm that Void would take. He went top lane, right? Like, I would go to the lane that Arc Warden was in, which is mid, and push this lane out. I wouldn't be farming the jungle right now. And I sure as fuck wouldn't be showing up bottom. You're way too far behind, and what you need right now is farming levels. You shouldn't be showing up to team fights. You need to... I don't want to say you should go full recovery mode, because the beauty of Darkseer is that while you're recovering, while you're farming, you're also pressuring enemy towers, right? Because you're so strong at pushing lanes in, especially remotely with Ion Shell. So what I would do is I would run mid. I would not run back bottom. Don't do it. You get Arcane Boots and you're like, I have enough mana to fight, not realizing that, first of all, Vacuum's on cooldown. Second of all, even if Vacuum wasn't on cooldown, you're level fucking 7, right? Like, the enemy, is this this was their offlaner, right? Lina was the offlane, the 3 position. Their offlane Lina has a Blink Dagger. Why does she go Blink Dagger? She has a Blink Dagger. She's 2.5 levels up on you. Morphling, same story. They don't have Lich ulti, right? No, they do have Lich ulti. Like, these guys are gonna wreck you. You do have a Hood, which is really, like, Pipe is really good this game, but it doesn't matter because your farm is so... I bet that felt good. This is the issue, is I bet this feels good. Alright. Like, so the enemy overplays way too hard, especially on their Lich. I don't know what he was doing, but their Pudge died too, and I think the Pudge was the one that died here. Like, where is the enemy right now? He's under their tower. What is this Pudge doing? He's got a he's got a DD, so he feels invincible, but like, he's tanking tier 2 towers at 14 minutes in the game. I don't know what the enemy team's doing. Okay, I do know what they're doing. It's called throwing. Okay. So you showing up here doesn't actually matter because the enemy is dumb. And whatever, you know, now that I think about it, this is Dota 2. I was gonna say something ruder. This is Dota 2, okay? People throw. I wouldn't plan on my enemies making big misplays like that, but here, what you should have done is you should have ran mid, regardless of all that shenanigans happening. You should have ran mid and just held a TP. And then if the enemy starts doing stupid stuff, like you had a TP, right? You still do. You TP'd top lane. But I know you had TP up when you got your Arcane Boots. I still would have ran mid and put a shell on this creep wave, and then put another shell on this creep wave. Or actually, I would have put 1 shell on the creep wave and then 1 shell on myself. And then, you know, you have TP available. If the enemy ever dives you, well, you have shell on yourself, you have TP, just TP into lane. That's what I would have done. So you showing up bottom and getting that vacuum wall off on the Lich that killed him, like, that probably felt good, But you could have done that as well by TPing, and what's more important is you would have gotten mid farm as well out of it. But in any case, now you TP top and you're pushing this lane out. I think this is okay. You know, you're pushing out the dead lane, and what's more important about this is that you're trying to get back into this game. You know, and you are. You've got 5k net worth. Your levels are recovering. You're not, by any stretch of the imagination, what I would consider to be like a main player yet in this game. You're not deciding the games. It doesn't look like you're deciding the game's outcome here. And you're going mech when I just said pipe is like so amazing. Look at the enemy heroes. What does mech help you do this game? What does Greaves help you do this game? They have an ancient apparition, right? That's disincentive for you to go mech. They have Pudge. They have Lina. They have Lich. These are all stuns that will prevent you from using your mech and getting any value whatsoever because all of it is magic damage. What item helps you even if you can't push it in a team fight? It's pipe. Pipe helps you if you can't push it in a team fight because pipe gives you an insane amount of magic resistance. But more importantly, when you do push the pipe active, you just win the team fight. Like, they don't do any damage to you. They actually have so much magic damage that they will punch through it, but you're going to get so much value out of buying a Pipe of Insight this game. It's insane. Most of Pudge's damage is magical. All of his damage is magical. If Morphling's going and he is going the shotgun build, he's going to be a lot of magical burst damage. Lich is going to be all magical damage, and Lena's going to be all magical damage, although she's pivoting in towards right click. Doesn't matter. I mean, she's going Maelstrom. That's still magical damage. Like, Pipe is so incredibly amazing here that, like, the fact that you're not doing it shows that you're not critically thinking about your game in terms of how it changes on a game-to-game basis. You're just going in and picking Darkseer and blindly going the items that seem good on the hero without critically analyzing the game that you're in and the context of how that item that you're rushing needs to be, you know, needs to be correct or needs to be like copacetic with the game that you're playing, right? So whereas, yeah, Guardian Greaves feels good to get on Darkseer and Mech feels like a fine item to get on Darkseer, and it is in a lot of games. In this game, it is not the case that Mech makes sense. Mech doesn't make any sense this game. I would definitely be going Pipe of Insight, no question. Right, you have the casual hood. Your team needs a pipe. You need a pipe. Pipe gives you more. Actually, pipe I think gives you a lot more magic resistance. Yeah, it gives you 30 plus the aura, which is 10%, whereas this only gives you 20. So you're getting 40. You're getting effectively double the magic resistance that you're getting from the hood. You're getting more health regen because of the aura, right? And the most important thing, you're getting that barrier that helps your team, and it's a higher health point value that it blocks than hood does. Hood only blocks 325. Pipe blocks 400, like, and that will be significant. If it's ever going to be significant, it's going to be in a game like this where the enemy has so much burst magical damage. It's actually insulting that they played this hard into getting countered by Pipe and you didn't do it. It's almost like you're handing them the victory with that. So that's a big deal. I do like that you stack this camp and that you're trying to farm two camps at the same time, but I have to wonder if focusing on small things like these, it's not small. Focusing on mechanics like this are what are preventing you from critically analyzing the game. So, like, because I've been here too. Don't say that I am like focusing too much on something that's not there. I have been in a game. This has happened. This is probably one of my biggest pitfalls as a player. When you're playing the game and you're focusing way too much on the individual small micro decisions and mechanics that you have to exemplify, like stacking a camp or looking at your mini map or making sure to go rotate to a lane to go push it in for creep farm or just focusing on last hits. You're focusing too much attention to those details and not enough to the macro sense of the game, which includes things like, you know, buying the correct items, recognizing how your build needs to change in accordance with the game that you're in, etc., etc., etc. So definitely something to consider. Definitely something that in this game would have made a huge difference if you were going Pipe instead of Mech. No question. No question in my mind. I would instantly Surge, okay. Took you a while, but you did do it. I would also have told your Void TP'd out, that's good. And then showing in this lane is very dangerous. I would not have done this, and you're going to die for it. Yeah. So you did see this, right? This is a death where 100% preventable. 100% preventable. No reason for you to die here. Absolutely no reason for you to die here. You see with a ward, and not even just with a ward, but you saw because you actually looked at these heroes on your main map. So even if I completely blinded off, I'm blind. You can't see it right now. I'm taking my hand. I'm blinding your mini map, right? I'm literally removing the mini map from the equation. Doesn't matter. You see these two heroes walking towards you. They clearly either A, have vision, or B, are just looking for a kill. It is the case that they have vision. Is this because... No, hold up. They are radiance. They have, yes. So they have this area warded. They know you're there, right? It doesn't matter that they have this warded right now. What matters is you getting the fuck up out of this location. And so you should recognize, hey, they probably have vision over me because I see them walking towards me. Honestly, that putt should have hooked you. So what am I not going to do as I walk over here? I am not going to just walk out here and farm this creep wave. That is so stupid, right? That is just a dumb decision for me to do. Oh, nope, I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to die because of it. I mean, come on, dude, like... Even you gotta hold that L, right? Like, you just played... you played into that so beautifully. It's like... It was crazy. Okay. And then you open the scoreboard. I saw you do that. You open the scoreboard and you're like, Arr, fuck my life. No, dude, fuck your life. You played into that too hard. All right. It's all good. You TP back top. I wouldn't even be... Oh my... I was just about to say, I would not even be TPing back into lane at this point. I do like that you're wasting their time. You took like 5,000 years to use the hood, but you do. And I think you're just fine. Yeah. And then you're not... This is one other criticism I've had of your gameplay since the mid-game has begun. You're not, like, looking around the map enough. I've been on your player's perspective for most of the game. Now, I don't know if you're looking at your minimap, right? Because I'm not there with you, watching you while you play the game. Like, I don't know where your eyes are paying attention. But one thing that is for sure is you're not scrolling over to see what's happening on the map outside of anything but what's centered on your hero. So the amount of I used to call this your camera movement. Like, your ability to assess and receive information that's outside of your immediate view has been, like, basically nil. Like, if the enemy, for instance, was walking... This is one of those reasons why I had to point out that the enemy walked into your vision here and that I could have blinded your minimap. Is because it seems like you're not actually looking at your minimap at all. And again, I don't mean that to criticize you, like, super negative. I'm not saying, like, you're blind or anything. I just mean it seems like you're playing the game blind. Like, you're not using all of the resources that the game gives you to be able to play effectively. So, let me exemplify that the best way I possibly can. When you ran away here, right? First of all, again, use your hood earlier, but when you're running away, you can look behind you. Like, you can pause here and then start to scroll behind you and see, like, are they showing on the map? Are they showing on this ward? Where are they? And you could be like, well, I'm looking at my mini map, but you're not. You're looking up here. And then as you start to walk in here earlier, or as you start to walk down here, you should be looking over here and see what's happening to my Arc Warden. What spells are the enemy using, right? Did Pudge have to ulti for this? Did Lich have to ulti for this? But you're not doing any of that. All you're doing is looking at your hero as he's running back. And so because you're doing this, you don't see where they move afterwards, right? And so what you do is you just walk in to the enemy Morphling, who's going to come over here and just shotgun you, right? And then I think, do you die here? It's really sick that you actually hit that wall. This is, as a side note, this is actually such a sick wall. Having this Morphling illusion, you could be microing this a little bit better. You're actually killing the Ancient Apparition. Okay, I don't know if you're doing this intentionally, but this is actually so sick. Debatably game-winning right here. If you had more follow-up, that could have been so sick. That Morphling illusion could have been, like, the most impactful Morphling illusion of ever time. Like, if the Void TP'd or anything. Like, you guys you still have this outpost. Dude, if Void... this is crazy. If the Void TP'd there, when you hit the Morphling illusion with your wall, you could have just won a fight. That's insane. I would have... Talk to your team. Tell your team that. Literally go on mic and say, guys, I hit the Morphling illusion. That's a big deal. Because I don't think your team... I don't even think you knew how big of a deal that is. You hit Morphling with your wall of replica. That is the condition. That is... dude, it sucks because Darkseer isn't the kind of hero that, like, hits a big black hole, which is like a global taunt. It's like you black hole and everybody knows what you're doing. Oh my god, they're all stunned for 4 seconds, taking pure damage, swirling in a fucking hole, looking at the stars and shit like that. Like, Wall of Replica, kind of boring, right? You cast it, you summon an illusion of the enemy hero. But then when you really think about it, it's like, dude, I summoned an illusion of their carry, and their carry is Morphling, which means I just summoned an illusion that does like 175 damage and attacks like every, like 4 times a second or 2 times a second. Like, I just created another carry for us to fight with. I just created a copy of Faceless Void, basically. Like, it is a 6v5, effectively, right? That's what you just did. And because that's not flashy, your team doesn't know, like, hey, we can actually just go kill them. But you should know that. Like, when you create that illusion, that's a big deal. And you literally killed the Ancient Apparition with that illusion. It's just kind of, it's unfortunate because Darkseer's ultimate is it's insane. It's crazy. Like before I started playing the hero, I didn't respect it, and then I started playing him, and I started realizing how incredibly impactful Wall of Replica is. But because I don't think other people realize how impactful it is as an ability, and so you need to teach them how impactful it is by saying, "Guys, I hit Morphling. I hit the enemy carry with the wall. Go fight. Go fight. We can go fight. We can go win this fight." So yeah, that's, I don't know if I'd call that a mistake, but that is definitely something that I would like work on as a macro concept of Darkseer, is recognizing who you need to wall in team fights, like you did that in that particular fight you did wall the Morphling, and then when you do wall the Morphling, communicate that information to your team. Say, guys, if I wall a Morphling, we can win a fight. You know, I walled the Morphling, go win a fight. And then here, this is just, I mean, I know this is going to happen. You're against a Pudge, right? Even if the Pudge didn't have Blink Dagger, you got to be careful doing stuff like this. That's fine that you didn't die, though. In fact, I think you can kill him. This is partially due to your item decisions that you are so tanky, by the way, there, which is not me insulting you. I'm actually complimenting. I'm saying that, like, this is one of the reasons why we go so tanky on Darkseer, so that if we want to, we can just play frontline, and you're not playing frontline, but we can, you know, go aggressively push out lanes and make it very difficult for enemies that kind of kill you in a burst, like Pudge does. You know, Pudge wants to blink on you, dismember you, and hook you, and by then you should be dead, and if you're not dead, then he's upset. I don't even mind this right here. What I would love for you to do is, the creep wave just spawned. I would love for you to just walk over here, and can I give us full vision? And shell this creep, and then start running up into their jungle. That would be beautiful if you did that, because then your Warlock wouldn't feel like he needs to push out this lane, because you could be pushing this lane but doing so safely because you're not showing. And then I would also love it, since 22 minutes just happened, I would love it if you went and checked this rune. If the enemy gets this DD, that's on your hands, bro. Like, they do not deserve to get this double damage, and if they get this on Morphling and go win a team fight, I'm gonna blame you, because you know, you are in position. Power runes do not stop being irrelevant. I'm gonna say that one more time. Power runes never stop being irrelevant. Sorry. Power runes never stop being relevant. Power runes are always relevant. It doesn't, I know that everybody thinks that, like, past the 10-minute mark, when the laning phase kind of breaks down and the mid laner starts to rotate, power runes don't mean as much because, you know, they don't decide, like, oh, it's harder to get to them or whatever. No. Power runes are always good. At 44 minutes, if you pick up a DD or an illusion on your carry, you can go win a team fight. If you go pick up a regen, that's a big deal, especially on certain heroes that can use it very well. Darkseer is one of those heroes, right? Darkseer is one of the best heroes to get runes with. Illusion rune is super good on Darkseer because it's kind of like Axe, right? You can go send an illusion to a lane, put Ion Shell on him, and he can push that lane out. Consequently, DD isn't a bad item, or isn't a bad rune on Darkseer. It's probably one of his weakest runes. Haste is amazing. Regen is amazing. Arcane is insane on Darkseer. Like, you can make such good use of runes on this hero, such that, yeah, every 2 minutes you should be checking runes if you're near them. Especially on a hero like Darkseer. But even if you weren't Darkseer, if you were support, I would have went to check the rune there. Is there? Yeah, okay. So the Pudge bottled the DD. That's still bad. Like, Pudge with a bad for you is what I'm saying. Like, Pudge does have a lot of right click, especially with Flesh Heap stacks. If this Pudge gets a kill because of this DD, it's your fault. Like, if this Pudge lands an extra right click or two, I don't think he's going to. But just know that that was something that you easily could have prevented. And also, this lane should not be ever pushed out when you're in the lane. Like, this is another misconception I can tell you have. You think that jungle farm is better than lane farm. That is not correct. Not even close, especially when this tower is up. Jungle farm is definitely not better than lane farm. Lane farm is always going to be worth more, but also the amount of pressure that you create by pushing in creep waves is infinitely more valuable than getting like an extra 2 or 150 gold from farming an extra jungle camp. You can do both. This is the beautiful thing about Darkseer. Darkseer can actually just farm both. Oh, come on, attack with your Morphling illusion. Okay. Darkseer can farm both the lane and the jungle at the same time, but you were not doing that. You were farming only the jungle. That is a huge mistake. It's a mistake that cost AA his life because Morphling came down and then Arc Warden came down and then all that, and what just happened. Where's your Morphling illusion? Oh my goodness. You have a Morphling illusion somewhere. Did you throw it away? Oh god. Whenever I create an illusion of the enemy carry, that is like the most important thing. I'm microing that right next to my main hero. No, why are we chronoing a Pudge, Void? What are you going to do about the Morphling that just killed you? Oh, God. This game is crazy. I kind of hate your talent choice, too. I think the level 15 talent needs to go on Wall of Replica here. Alright, I focused way too much on this replay. Sorry. I focused way too much on areas of this replay that don't matter nearly as much, in my opinion, as the early game. So I'm going to cut it off here. This video is already too long. Yeah, it's definitely too long. 48 minutes. I'm back to my old ways. Just know that, again, a lot of the egregious mistakes I saw you make in this game happened in the early game, happened with your inability to correctly identify where the lane needed to be and use your wave manipulation tactics as a Dark Seer effectively to accommodate to that decision making of, like, again, where should the lane be? Okay, I'm going to manipulate the wave to make it to where I need it to be. And then secondly, obviously, item decisions. Soul Ring doesn't make any sense this game. Probably should have had a stick, but mainly should have had infused rain drops at 3 minutes. Probably should have gone bottle because you bought 4 salves. So yeah, wave manipulation, item decisions, those were 2 big deals. What was another big deal? There was the mistake that we saw you do under the tower, the dicking around, taking extra damage. We can chalk that up to, like, mechanical. It's not even mechanical. I was like, poor decision making on your part. I think you even recognized that when you made it in the moment. But then also there was the whole, like, you never once went behind the tower, grabbed the creep wave, and tried to farm both of these areas at the same time. What that does, just to further illustrate my point as to why that's good, is that creates a situation where you have 2 creep waves under the enemy's tower, or at least one full HP creep wave under the enemy's tower, and you can just go dive the Morphling. Now, Morphling's kind of a hard hero to dive because he can create so much on-demand HP, but you can make it really difficult for him to last hit under tower if you do that. And Darkseer is super good at doing that, by the way. If you just go behind their tower, grab their creep wave, farm it right here, you kill the creep wave pretty quickly with Ion Shell. You take almost no damage because you meet the creep. You basically pull for them, but you do that pull when they don't want you to pull, which is you do that when they have a creep wave under their tower. It splits their support up. It lets your support harass the last hits of the enemy carry while he's under tower and he can't fight back. And you just never did that this game, and I suspect you never do that in your Darkseer games. So another thing to do. Yeah. Okay. Those are my big criticisms. Hope that you learned something, my friend Bird. Hope you don't hate this. Take care.